Hello folks, I'm here with the Ford Explorer today. This one's in premium trim with all-wheel drive. Now this may be quite an American looking car with an American looking badge on the front, but this Ford is a German underneath it all. It's based on the VW MEB platform, and indeed when we get inside you can see some tips of the hat, or actually just some shared parts from the VW parts bin. This one has got 340 PS of power, 0 to 62 in 5.3 seconds. The WLTP range about 323 miles, somewhere in that region on the combined cycle. And on the face of it, it looks really quite attractive. I much prefer the styling of this car versus its VW group rivals, and that's things like the ID.4, things like the Skoda Enyaq. I think this thing looks great, and I think it's by far the best looking car that Ford's producing at the moment. What do you think? Do you think I'm a madman? Let me know in the comments. Now, despite this car having a good range, the rate of charge itself can be quite important for some people. This will charge at 135 kilowatts, which I think is a wee bit disappointing. I'd certainly like to see that sort of 180 and above. It should get you from 10 to 80% in around about 28 minutes, there or thereabouts. But it does lag behind some of the competitors, particularly people like Tesla. You know, your Model Y will charge much quicker than this will. The boot space on paper actually seems worse than it is in reality. We've got 450 litres here, and that doesn't sound that much for a car of this size, but it is a nice flat load lip, really good shape so you can get large items in and out. And the load cover is built in to this rear hatch, so there's no fiddling about trying to get that out of the way. In practice, it works brilliantly. No frunk in this, unfortunately, thanks to that MEB platform. Bit naff, but there we go. But we do have a bit of underfloor storage here, so you've got somewhere to keep the cables. Now in the back here, it's generally a happy story. We've got enough leg room. I'm only about 5'9" and a bit. I've got about that, and this is in my normal driving position. If you had a particularly tall driver and a particularly tall passenger behind them, they would be a little bit pushed for leg room, I think, and there could be a bit more foot room. You can get your toes under there, but it's not cavernous by any means. You could sit 3 adults across the back here. There's of course no transmission tunnel because we're in an EV, and down here you've got 2 USB-Cs and a couple of vents, and then quite a nice cup holder with 2.5 cup holders, and this one's also got a load through hatch. It could be quite dark in here with the dark headliner, but we do have a big tinted panoramic roof, and that's a thing of beauty really. It goes almost the entire length of the car and really does brighten things up in here quite a lot. Material quality's okay, but pretty unexceptional. But generally, I think your rear seat passengers will be very comfortable. No 7-seat option at the moment, which is a bit of a shame. I don't know if one will come, or if the batteries eat into the floor too much to actually make it possible, but this seems like a car that would be ideal to have as a 7-seater. So into the business end of things, and we've got a few tip of the hats to normal Ford design, but then there's also a heavy dose of VW in here. Things like this colour driver information display are straight out of the VWs, as are the controls, and the steering wheel's somewhat familiar. We do have haptic controls rather than physical buttons and dials, which is not my preference, but some people like them. And we've also got a haptic slidey thing down here for the volume, which I have to say is just a bit pants. The one on the steering wheel works far better in my opinion. The infotainment system is really very good. You've got this huge 14-point-something inch display, and it's really bold and vivid. You've also got the aircon controls on there permanently. They are screen based, but they don't go away, which is good news, and it's no problem using them while driving. You've also of course got voice commands if you don't want to take your eyes off the road. The seats are nice and comfortable, albeit I've struggled to get the perfect seating position, if I'm being honest, which is a little bit annoying. And material quality generally is, again, like quite adequate. Nothing exceptionally groundbreaking in here, but it doesn't feel particularly cheap and nasty in any way. You've got a massive central speaker along here. This one's got the B&O system in it. That sounds pretty good. And then you've got all the normal tech that you would expect in a modern car. So we've got wireless Apple CarPlay. The car comes with sat nav, etc. and all of it works nicely. Also, I've got to give a tip of the hat to this armrest. It's really quite plush and chunky and feels really good under the arm, and they don't always do that. Couple of cup holders here that have got these widgety things in. That's interesting. And then down here you've got a big space just underneath the center console, and you could get a small bag under there if you were that way inclined. And a really big central cubby with a little tray thing. In this car I've also got a head-up display up here which displays the speed limit, current speed, and one or two other things. That works very well and obviously stops you from taking your eyes off the road. You do get a bit of reflection from the dash in the windscreen, and especially around where the projector for that head-up display is. But it's a minor grumble, really. The other minor grumble is that rear visibility is not amazing. That back window seems quite far away, and if you've got three in the back, you really can't see a sausage, but you do have a reversing camera, so that's always good. This is a very nice cabin generally. There are a few areas where they could have made it feel a bit more special. They could have perhaps used some more of this carbony type stuff. I don't think it is, I think it's pretend, but that's got a nice bit of texture to it. They probably could have thrown a bit more of that around and maybe come up with a more imaginative design, and maybe use some nicer materials in a few places. But generally it feels good, and again, to me, it feels a little bit better than we're going to get in the ID4. Folks, just a very quick reminder to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Thanks. So I suppose the most important part of any car is how nice it is to drive and how easy it is to live with. And I've done a lot of living with this car. I've done probably 600 miles in it this week. A couple of really long trips and some short round town stuff. So it's had a really good sort of varied workout, and I've got a lot of points for you. So the first one is the handling. It's good. Like, you can actually corner and stuff at speed in this, and it's a big car. It's an SUV. It's not even a small SUV, but you can have a little bit of fun in it. And also that acceleration, you know, 0 to 62 in 5.3 seconds, it comes across in this car. It does still feel quick. A lot of big SUVs, electric SUVs especially, that have got a turn of pace, I feel lack a bit of that feeling. And I don't know what it is, maybe just the size of the vehicle or whatever it is, but it doesn't feel as dynamic as a car that's perhaps even a bit slower, that's smaller. The Tesla Model Y being an exception, because I think even this slowest Model Y, the one I've got for example, feels rapid. But this has got that same kind of feel, and you still feel like you can dart around a little bit in it. It doesn't feel like, you know, you're lugging an HGV behind you. So that's all good. The real world range, so the WLTP figures, I think I mentioned earlier in this video, WLTP on this is over 300 miles. At 100% charge, it shows 297. I'm sure that's based on my driving style and perhaps the driving style of the people before. In the real world, I've had 260 from it, and yesterday I tested that to its full extent. So I rapid charged up to 100% when I was in Birmingham, and when I got home I had 12 miles of range left, and my total journey yesterday was about 245 miles. So I would say 250 to 260 if you're not driving like a complete hoon. And I'm sure if you're hypermiling, you can achieve much more than that, but I just drive like a normal human, I guess. It's comfortable. It gets a little bit crashy on the really firm stuff. And, you know, I'm on a fairly smooth road now, and you can feel the little undulations, but you sort of bounce rather than glide or crash. So it's totally fine in terms of ride quality. I prefer it in just about every way to the ID4 on which it's based. I know the ID4's been around for a little while now, so this car's probably got an unfair advantage if you were to compare the two, simply because it's newer and, you know, you can learn from what's gone before. And Ford have obviously had the chance to tweak a product that's already available on the roads en masse. And there's nothing to stop you going and grabbing a couple of those and putting them through their paces and thinking, well, if we did this and if we did this. And I think Ford have done that really quite successfully. This is probably as good a Ford as I've driven in recent times, certainly in this country with the offering of cars we've got in the UK. And although you can't get away from some of the VW-isms, things like the switch gear and one or two other little bits and bobs, you're very much aware that you are still in a VW, albeit one with the blue oval on the steering wheel in front of you. Parking's quite easy, it's quite nimble despite being a big car. Rear visibility is not amazing, but you have got the rear view camera. Forward visibility is great, so it's really good for town driving. Got these nice big wing mirrors as well. And the noise is really well insulated from traffic. But you do get a fair amount of tyre rumble coming through. But big lorry went past me there. Just couldn't hear anything really. Range Rover. I've got a big van and a lorry coming here. It's just a little as they go by. Do you like that? And it generally just feels quite refined. You know, I've had the Ford Puma last week, petrol version of the Ford Puma, and that's something that really lacked, was a little bit of refinement. And this feels like it's got it. Now, one of the things that may not bother you, but really does bother me, so much so that I wanted to beat the car with a rubber hose, is the wireless charging pad for your phone. It doesn't seem to like any kind of phone case. Now, mine's just got a normal sort of silicone rubber case, completely bog standard. And you put the phone in, and up here will pop a massive message telling you that it's detected metal or something and therefore won't charge your phone. That happens intermittently, like every 12 seconds, and then it charges a bit again. And if you take the case off, it seems to work okay, but still occasionally you just notice the phone's just not charging for some reason. And this is not a phone I ever have problems with wireless charging pads. So I don't think it's a temperamental phone, I think it's a temperamental car. Another thing that really annoys me is that there's no mute button for the car stereo. So if you want to just quickly mute and go through something, you know, you've got to turn the volume down, or you've got to turn the entire infotainment screen off. And that's just a bit pants. Why not just give us a mute button? Better still, a little volume wheel that you can press and that mutes it. Things like that in modern cars are examples of sort of over-engineering and under-engineering at the same time. But they're really bloody frustrating in the real world. These are tiny, tiny little things that I'm nitpicking over, but they're just things that annoy me, and they might well annoy you. And the reason I'm nitpicking over these tiny things is that largely the rest of it is pretty great. I mean, I'm driving now, I've been driving for 4 miles in stop-start traffic for quite a lot of it, and we're getting 4.1 miles per kilowatt hour. So it's pretty good around town. I mean, it is a reasonably warm day today. I guess it's about 15, 16 degrees. So we're not in the depths of winter. But I don't think that's too bad, especially given the size and shape of the vehicle. It doesn't look particularly sort of aerodynamically designed from the outside. It's a fairly boxy looking car, albeit I really like the design of the car. I think it looks really cool. But you don't get the impression that this car was designed in a wind tunnel in the same way as something like the Hyundai IONIQ 6 was. So I think that's actually quite impressive. You know, it's a big car, it's a heavy car, and it doesn't look particularly aerodynamic, but we're still getting decent efficiency from it. Quite honestly, I've been really impressed with this. I've always liked the look of it, but I was very much prepared to be underwhelmed, but haven't been underwhelmed. I think it's a really good car and a really solid effort from Ford, albeit with a lot of help from the VW group. Now, if you can find it somewhere deep within your soul to forgive Ford for putting the Capri badge on what looks like an inflated Polestar 2, you might also want to consider that Capri, because on paper, you know, it shares a lot with this car, but offers a little bit more in some areas. I think it's got a bit more boot space, for example. So that might also be one worth considering. I haven't driven the Capri as yet, but if this is anything to go by, you're probably not going to be disappointed. Now, this car's obviously a rival to those VW group cars, the ID4, Skoda Enyaq, etc. But I think it's also a rival to things like the Kia EV6, the Tesla Model Y. A lot of people have got a problem with Tesla these days. And some people just don't like the minimalism in a Tesla as it goes. Well, I'd probably still go for the Tesla over it myself, but this is a viable alternative. It is ticking some of those boxes. It is very good, and it doesn't seem to have too many compromises. So in summary, folks, this is not a revolutionary car. We've seen a lot of this car before with some different badges and different lids on, but Ford's managed to inject a little bit of personality into it. One thing I think you can say about the VW ID4 is it's a little bit anemic. It's a little bit bland. And this feels like it's got more personality both on the inside, the outside, and even when you're driving it. I think the Ford engineers have just made a few little tweaks in some fairly important areas, and you do end up with, in my opinion, just a more likeable product. If you're considering leasing a Ford Explorer, click the link in the video description. That will take you to Lease Loco and to all the latest deals at the time you click. That updates in real time. And who knows, there might be a bargain around at the time you click. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and please give me a thumbs up and let me know your thoughts about the Ford Explorer in the comments. It's always great to hear from you, and it all helps to support the channel. Thanks ever so much for watching, folks. I'll see you on the next one. Huge thanks to all my channel members for your continued support. I really do appreciate it.